All right. So today's video is on a money banker. You can make 800 million-isk, technically a billion-isk safely every single day in high sec as an alpha clone. And I've been doing this, well, not as an alpha clone by the end of it, but for a couple months. And then I quit playing. I tried to put a station inside of a star and a station inside of the back of Cosmos sites, and then made courier contracts to those. Of course, you can't get to a station inside a star. The star pushes you out of it very quickly, so you can never deliver the actual goods. And so CCP got mad at me and told me they'd ban me if I tried any of the stuff I'd spent basically my entire time playing Eve researching. So I quit playing Eve. But 6 months later, I sent some of my strategies to Evil, and he made one on the Black Glass implant farm, but he never made one on the Cosmos site farms. And I feel like those are the much more valuable ones. And I know he was running them, so he knows how valuable they are. And I think they really need a video on them. So it's been a year, over a year and like 10 months, and he hasn't gotten to it. So I'm going to make my own. So here's the first site. It has all these Imperial Navy ships in it. When you get an actual mission to go to this site, you just go to the last place and get the Amar Light Marines and leave. But my version of running it, you go into this pocket here, and you fly over to, there's an Amar outpost, I think it's called. And when you get close to that, these NPCs will start to attack you. And same will happen in all the other rooms. But in this room specifically, they drop Imperial Navy General Insignia 2s, which are very valuable. And they also drop +1 attribute implants. Both those are very valuable. It turns out to be about 20 million each time you kill them, but they respawn every single hour. And if you're still near that Amar outpost, they'll still automatically attack you. So you get in a battleship. I would suggest fitting a passive tank or a lot of cap batteries to avoid neuting, not the NPCs, but other players actually. And then you go out there, put out an MTU, and deploy your drones, and they'll attack you, and your drones will kill them. And then they'll respawn the next hour, and they'll attack you, and your drones will kill them. And you're basically passively making 20 million-isk an hour. The third pocket's the only one I AFK'd. These are in 2 groups, so it's much harder to do, and they also attack your drones much more. But theoretically, this is just as easily, fairly easily AFKable as well. They both hurt your Amar standings. And this is in Amar space, but it's not too bad. You'll just have to replace which character is doing it every month or 2. I did the math. I think it was almost 6 months, actually, before Amar NPCs will start attacking you at gates and such. So my recommendation here is a Paraxis. There was another guy doing it. He was part of Nota Bene, and he and I fought over it for a while. I think I ended up paying him 120 million-isk every single day to not attack me, and I would get the rest of the money. So at 20 million-isk every hour, that's 480 million-isk a day. Of course, you're going to have to subtract some for paying off bribes and such probably, but especially even if you don't, 480 every year, you'd be making 175 billion-isk a year. That's pretty amazing, especially for something that can be done in like a cruiser technically. I'm pretty sure you could AFK it in a fast Vexer. Anyway, you just have to be aware of other players taking your stuff, because that's kind of a lot of the actual challenge of these. The Nota Bene guy and I would fight each other. I took out 2 of his battleships and a battlecruiser, and he took out one of my battleships, and a lot of MTUs between the 2 of us. Killing each other's MTUs is the most straightforward way of fighting. The way I got the battleships and battlecruiser was capacitor ganking, flying with the cruiser and some energy neutralizers, and then effectively gank them, but with the energy neutralizers. He was active tanked. You can, of course, turn up your graphics settings and see if a shield booster is running, of course. And if you turn that off, or drop their capacitor low enough that you turn it off. Then the NPCs will kill them off eventually, and then you take their loot and destroy their MTU and start farming it yourself. They will respond by that Amar outpost I mentioned that the NPCs congregate around. If you destroy that, the NPCs stop respawning. For some reason, the NPC spawns in all of these sites, I think, are linked to these little outpost buildings. So if you destroy that, the NPCs stop respawning until that structure respawns, and it will respawn at downtime. In total, I think this site takes like, especially if you did it in like a Vexer, that would speed tank by spinning around them a lot. One problem with the speed tanking is you can, of course, destroy what they're spinning around. If it's another player, and then they'll just fly off in a random direction if they were orbiting, or sit still and you can push them away. And then you can start AFKing it and just leave them off to the side. Anyway, so if you did that, it would probably take like 10 minutes to set this up each day, and you can spend that 10 minutes doing other stuff. It's mostly just flying through some acceleration gates and then dropping an MTU and deploying your drones. And that's very little work, like 10 minutes of work per day, and leaving your computer on overnight and such for 170 billion ISK every year. The next site is this plantation here. It's interesting. The people who are fighting me on this site never fought me on this site, or vice versa. So they clearly didn't check like Z kill board and look for who was killing what. But this one takes about 10 minutes to set up. You fly through this acceleration gate. It says it's locked. It is not locked until the room is cleared. If you kill these frigates, nothing can warp disrupt you. They do have E-War. I know it doesn't say there, but they do warp disrupt, and they do webify. You need this key card, but the key card is not consumed, so you only have to kill this guy once. You go through this gate. I would fit a micro warp drive to your ship just temporarily to go through there. I was using a battleship. I think you need a battleship, but you could do something else. Then you go in here, and you're going to have to kill these guys. This acceleration gate is in fact locked, and you need an Imperial Navy General Insignia too. I would deploy a mobile depot here and refit to an actual AFKing fit before you go into the last room. The last room has a lot of damage. I think it has 2,000 damage. I had a Z kill board open here. I think So this is my fit for running that. I use Type X. Type X hardeners, I think, are basically a requirement. There's no reason not to use them. They're fairly cheap, and a reactive hardener is also a requirement. I think you could lower these to Type A large armor repairs, and it would still be pretty good. And those are quite a bit cheaper. The thing is, by the time you're investing that much money, it really makes sense to just use the expensive stuff. Especially with how much you're making. This site will drop about 40 million in insignias every hour. And there's also a special NPC that spawns every day or two that drops another, I'm going to say 40 million, but I'm not really sure. And it also is very inconsistent how it spawned. There was someone who's consistently flying in there and killing it, at least in the beginning. And I don't know, they must have known when it spawned, or been able to figure it out. I don't really know how they were doing it. Anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of loot in this site, and you need an expensive ship to do it. I've seen people do it in a rattlesnake fairly cheaply. This ship here is Alpha Clone. Everything here can be flown by and used by an Alpha Clone, which is pretty nice, except for I think I had Tech 2 drones. But you can use the Navy versions of drones. And Navy versions are actually nicer sometimes because they've got more health. So you don't have to worry about them getting killed off as quickly. Anyway, tank, EM, and thermal. The final boss deals a lot of extra damage, even though he's pretty much random spawning in, and I think he deals kinetic damage as well, so I strongly recommend a reactive armor hardener. So that'll help out, and he'll usually be there for a long time before your drones passively switch targets, which is basically what you're relying on if you're going to be leaving your computer on overnight. There is a lot of money in this. You can easily see people were killing very valuable MTUs, but even if you lose 100 million in one MTU, is not a big deal. These would also be great targets if you're a botter and want to write scripts to do this stuff. You can see the loots, all the different types of loot you can get on Drestia's Vengeance killboard. Anyway, so that is at least 40 million. 40 million an hour and 24 hours in a day. And I'm going to say there's an extra 40 million for that final boss, but I think there were times where it was dropping 300 or 400 million in one drop. It just can also drop next to nothing. So anyway, that's going to give you 1 billion a day, 365 billion a year. That's a lot of money. Of course, you won't be making that much because people will take out 100 million ISK MTUs. But it's pretty nice. So that's the other site I would AFK a lot of. The one I was getting into AFKing until I had some issues with CCP is this one. It seems like you couldn't AFK it because it's in nullsec, so someone could just go and kill you. But this NPC here drops a key card, which is consumed when you use it on the acceleration gate. And if you see here, oh wait, I forgot to mention this part about the last one. This plantation one, there are these little phallic-shaped structures. These are those Amar outposts, the same ones in the Fedor military outpost. And those Amar outposts do control spawning in this plantation as well. So if you want to stop someone else from farming it, I think there are 4 of them. There's one there, one over there, and one over there. They're classified as large collidable structures. If you just destroy all those, NPCs will stop spawning and they won't make any money. Anyway, you can see over here, there are NPCs grouped around 2 things over there, and those things are Kaldari outposts. So same thing, you destroy those, all the NPCs in the site will stop respawning. There's one group attached to each outpost, and if you destroy one of those, this NPC here stops respawning. He is consumed on use, of course, so if you destroy that, you can technically make it so no more keys are produced as long as you get that at the start of each downtime. Unfortunately, there aren't enough people who actually run these sites for this strategy to be useful. I tried to do this on all the different sites and get all the special items and then contract them off at exorbitant prices because no one could get them as long as I logged in every day and did that right before downtime. And I choked off like a third of the special resources for Amar Cosmos sites for 2 months, and no one bought a single contract for them in that time. So there was legitimately no one running those particular missions, at least in a 2-month span. So I don't think you can ransom these off, unfortunately, but what you can do here is try to AFK this. I would suggest fast Proteus with drones that will auto-target things. Not really sure how practical it is in this site, but you could theoretically block people from coming in. AFK this. There's about 5 billion ISK in tags here that's dropped every day. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's a lot of money in tags in each of these rooms, and if you cleared these every hour, which is how often they respawn, you would get about 5 billion ISK if I did the math correctly. So any one of these rooms is as valuable as the final room of this site, though they're just a lot harder to AFK. There's also this last room, which has special resources in it. And if you want to just kill these and don't want to run the other rooms, you can get a bookmark. The whole site is like a zigzag pattern. And the last room is about 40 kilometers away from the edge of the null warp zone. So you can get a bookmark on the edge of the null warp zone and fly those 40,000 kilometers to a spot just outside targeting range. Refit to a combat fit. I would suggest a Tengu for this. It's the best one I found. And then take out this final bit of loot. The stasis webifiers are really annoying. But with the exception of those, it's fairly easy to just kite everything and take it all out, and that's a lot of money. Navy warp disruptors. The Kaldari large shield boosters really aren't worth much because everyone uses the extra larges, but there's also implants, warp scramblers, weapons, and all these drop insignias as well. So if you could theoretically choke this off, or you had a small group of people doing it, not just a solo player, that would be 5 billion ISK every single day. And yeah, that's 1.8 trillion every single year. That's a lot of money. So I would strongly recommend, if you're like a entrepreneurial player, you look into this. You can also directly fight people there, so it's not as passive aggressive conflict as these two will be. The last one is this site, which I haven't run. Oh, also this drops your Kildari standings, like, a lot. So if you're running this, you're going to be losing Kildari standings, just like these two lose you Amar standings. This one's going to lose you Kildari standings. Then there are this one here, and this can drop a Ashes mind link, turret handling mind link, or turret customization. These are very valuable. Turret customization mind link, they're buy orders for 5.5 billion, and sell orders are like 7. I would probably only use sell orders if you were doing this, because this is in nullsec, in already taken territory, so you will get some fighting there, and you probably won't be able to hold the site for too long. 5 billion for the turret handling. And there's a 1/7 chance of getting it. I don't remember how much this respawned. I think it was once every 6 hours, this final station respawned. I feel like it should be once a day, but I think I remember seeing somewhere that respawned every 6 hours. This person here, I haven't actually read it, but it seems very detailed. I'm not going to play Eve, so I'm just kind of, yeah, making this so that other people can make money off it. Anyway, this guy seems to have a good idea of how it's working. And that's the same site, these two. I would read his stuff. I don't know anything about this site, really. I just know they could be valuable. I never actually went to it, even. If you're going to run these and want to test out fits and such, I really suggest you use the test server to try things out. I don't even know if the test server is still running, in all honesty. I haven't played even, 2 years. But those are my main money makers. There are also some really cool things in these Cosmos sites while I was exploring them. I'm going to Doc's Evil's chat with me. But like, this is a skybox for one of the sites in the Minmatar Cosmos. Like, it's really beautiful. And that's another one. Also Minmatar space. There's this one, which is Kildari space. And there's this one here, which is Minmatar space. And this one is really my favorite. You get these like spiral lightning storms. I think they're very cool. I've always wanted to put a station there. Yeah. Cosmos sites, pretty cool. Can make you a lot of money. They're static. There's only one of them, so you're going to have to fight other people for it. You'll have to be the only one running it if you want to make the most money. I was making easily $1 billion a day doing this. It's pretty nice. Allows you to spend ridiculous amounts of money. You can repair your MTUs. For this one here, I was looking into a 12 billionist nester, which would be able to tank all the damage, deal enough damage, and also apply, well, more than a maxed out Tech 3 cruiser could in damage, but in repairs to an MTU, which is very nice. Except you also might get ganked, because this is right next to Heck, and a lot of people gank there. Anyway, so I thought I should make a video on this. And now I have. So I hope you have a nice day. I hope this helps someone make a bunch of money. It's all doable as an alpha clone, theoretically. Not really sure about these. Could be doable as an alpha clone. I mean, the ship I was using for this could run this as well, but it's just a nullsec. Test things out on the test server before you actually try them. And one note on the coming in here at the end, I had a bit of a thing with CCP about this. I was placing stations behind these sites, because the edge of the station is actually not, the place you warp in on the station is not actually where the station needs to be outside of a null warp zone. You can put it on the side of a site. You've got like your site is this little square here. You put the station right here, and the only places you can go to warp to that station are through that site. Well, the actual warp in point for the station is inside the null warp zone, so you can't warp to it. You also just put a station inside a star. I mean, they can warp to it, but they get pushed away right away. And making courier contracts to those. And they told me that any way of bypassing acceleration gates was a bannable offense. So technically, flying into the back of this site is a bannable offense. I don't think they'd follow through with it. I don't think they actually banned me, even after I released how to place stations inside stars and at the back of these sites, and also how to turn off the respawns on these sites and all that stuff. All my characters, last I checked, were still unbanned. So I expect you'll be fine, but it is something worth noting. Anyway, yeah, have a nice day. Wrong one again. There we go. Right workspace.